So evolution is a gradual change, a process which makes us understand how things have changed over time. And that also gives an idea about how things would change afterwards or in the future. So when we are talking about organic life or biological life, evolution function around specific theories and parameters are there to understand how biological life changes over time, how biological life evolved over time. So yeah, there are many examples to understand that, but let's explore this one. So there is these frogs which are found in Costa Rica and Central America. Central America here refers to the region between North America and South America, that is downwards to Mexico, the region around Panama. So you can find these frogs near Costa Rica and Panama Canal or southern Panama. Okay. Now they are very variable. They are found in uh, different colors that we see. So these kind of coloration that we see are also known as aposematism. Aposematism is warning coloration that is found in case of many amphibians as well as different organisms, where it shows a predator that I am potentially dangerous for you, because they have certain toxins, and these are also called as poison frogs or poison dart frogs. So they belong to the family of different frogs, including the genus like Phyllobates, Ranitomya, and majorly Oofaga. Okay, so these are poison dart frogs. They have certain colorations. They are brightly colored, and they show this kind of feature that is called aposematism, where they warn their potential predators that I am dangerous, I am poisonous, don't eat me. If you eat me, then I'll die, but you'll also die. So that is the sort of aposematic colorations refer to. So if the predators don't eat them, then the predators will live out, as well as the poison frogs will as also. So this is kind of warning coloration, warning system that they have. Now the point or the interesting fact is, all these frogs that you are seeing belong to the same species, that is strawberry poison dart frog, or the name is Oofaga plumilla. Now the interesting fact here is, they are so varying across the entire system that they have specific features, they have specific colorations, they have specific structure of and modification of limb that is happening, and they are entirely modified throughout different planes, and they belong to the same species. They can actually interbreed. So it's very interesting to see how different kind of forms a single species can have, and how have they formed like this way, or why have these kind of morphs or different forms. So these are called polymorphs. Okay, so they are also called as polymorphs. There are multiple forms of morphological forms that are available of a single species, and they vary across different planes. So you can see variation in coloration, variation in limb structure, in different, if you observe more closely, you'll find differential limbs and gripping structures. Okay, morphs are named according to the region they are found. Okay, so if they are found in mainland, they have been different islands on different islands, and different regions of a mainland. So all of these actually influences how an organism can look, or how an organism can appear, as well as how an organism can develop their physiological activities. Apart from that, and how they are internally regularizing and metabolizing their structures. So all of these, what is the reason? Why is it happening? Why these kind of variations? And what are the basic reasons that function around these variations? So the answer is evolution, right? So if we understand evolution, we can actually find a particular answer to these kind of questions. Actually, we have to also deal with ecology and behavioral aspects and other aspects, but the main idea revolves around ecology and evolution, or basically majorly evolution. That's why Theodosius Dobzhansky rightly said, who was a Russian biologist, nothing makes sense in biology except in the light of evolution. So everything that happens in biology can be studied out with an aspect of evolution. But evolution being a bit of confusing for all of organisms like us, like all of the students, evolution is a theoretical idea, okay, where we study about the past, assess the future, to understand the present. So evolution actually depends on two basic entities, that is variation and heredity. Variation talks about all the change that is happening, and heredity talks about how these changes are inherited or passed over. If the changes in a population is happening right now and it doesn't get inherited over different generation, then that change won't survive in a particular situation. So a change to survive in a situation, it needs to be inherited over time. So that is what evolution is all about. Evolution is a gradual change that is inheritable, and the change happens in the properties of an organism or groups of organism over the course of generations and time scale. Evolution comes from a Latin word that means to unroll. So evolution, as you know, to unrolling a carpet, that's the similar process. So it happens gradually, it happens like a cascade. It doesn't happen like a burst out, it happens gradually. Continuous gradual change. So it could be, either small scale or it could be large scale. What do I mean by small scale? Small scale here refers to changes happening in the microenvironment of organisms. Microenvironment, I mean here refer to the physiological activities, the changes physiologically happening, the changes that are happening over developmental ideologies, or let's say for example we have developed an immune response for a particular bacteria. Okay, a bacteria first affected us, we took some kind of antibiotics and we developed an antibiotic resistance towards that bacteria. Now the entire physiology inside our body and the immune responses have changed according to the response of the bacteria. Okay, so internal changes that is happening results to large scale changes over time, over generations. So over generation we'll have this sort of resistance towards a particular bacteria, and over time will develop internally. So these changes that is happening in a micro scale accumulates together to form a large scale change. So small scale changes accumulate together to form large scale changes. So small scale changes could be physiological changes that is happening, small morphological changes that could be happen. For example, changes like skin color and hair color in humans. Primarily we know that humans have evolved from around the regions of Africa and they have expanded towards other region of the world. So the shade or the skin color that we see varies across the entire human or entire earth plane. The majority of the colorations varies from a range of the dark color skins to the pale color skins. Okay, and it's very interesting to know that there are around 36 shades of human skin colors that varies across the black color to pale color skin coloration. That all depends on the concentration of pigment melanin, right? Now it depends on multiple factors, that where it is established, how much of a temperature that is receiving, and what are the available influences of gene flow, the migration or immigration that happens across the plains, how many individuals are coming out, how many individuals are mating. All these factors again decide how the skin color disperses across the world. Now it's interesting to know that in US the population is tipping towards white minority. I mean, the white people are actually lowering down in number, and majority of the population is acquired by Asian and Hispanic population and also black population. So the white population actually reducing down and will reduce if the continuous trend of mixing of skin coloration is going on. So there is blending of skin color that happens, right? So if the first generation African migrants or first generation Asian migrants or refugees have traveled to US and established themselves there, and they have formed a specific coloration gradient over time. So yeah, this is interesting to see how a population level changes happen over skin color, and these variations that are happening are not actually influencing entire species, but they are small micro scale variations of the coloration of the skin due to the changes of melanin. So these are micro scale changes that happen. Even if you see changes with respect to the hair color, there are variation from black to pale blonde colors. Okay, so there are variation of skin coloration that you can see, and there is deviation according to the continent. So you can find different continent, different having majority of different coloration of hairs, and all this variation happens due to concentration of melanin and different concentration of keratin with respect to the available physiological and environmental factors. Now the idea behind it is that these variations rise from the internal changes and are genetic, right? So a particular organism have a genetic structure for production of certain melanin pigments, and when the other organism having differential structure of melanin mates together, third combination of a melanin structure which gives another kind of skin color. So these kind of variation are micro scale variation, and macro scale variation talks about large scale changes. Large scale changes here refers to the changes that happen over species level changes, okay, that leads to changes in species and over speciation, and that is pretty huge because it happens over time and it is pretty long term change that doesn't change or revert back. These long term changes are fixated and they form specific characters which leads and species to be unable to breed or interbreed again to be different organisms. So small scale or micro evolutionary changes are gradual but they can be interchangeable, while as micro evolutionary scale changes are not actually interchangeable. Now before going in deep with the structure and idea of evolution, as I was saying, there are different theories for evolution. Because evolution is a concept, many people had different ideas about it. So the idea of evolution started way beyond the idea of science, and many people have came with different ideas and theories. The idea of evolution or the idea of creation is found in different manuscripts. So primarily many people have the idea that there is a specific creator. So this is also known as the idea of creationism, okay, which is still supported, that there is one specific creator who has created the entire mankind and the species that we see. And this has been found in many manuscripts, inscripts, any kind of mythological structures that we see. So the creationism idea comes with the fact that it is created by some organism or some individual or some energy source or some idea or some concept, but the thing is it isn't clear. The ideas that have behind creationism aren't practically or logically clear enough to make a statement for scientific development that is happening right now. So the idea was obscure, although the idea was accepted and pertinent on the belief system, but it wasn't clear. So many people let it be revolving around the religious activities or maybe functioning of a belief system, stated that it has been created by a creator. So may it be Hinduism, may it be talking about Christianism, may it be talking about Buddhism, Sikhism, or Muslim, or maybe any kind of other religion that we are talking. Everyone had their own idea about creationism or the creator. And then we came into the next period of ancient Greek and Romans. So this period was majorly formed and focused by Aristotle, Plato, and philosophers like them. So they had this idea that so there might be some creator, that might be not, but the process of development of organism is gradual. So there are differences of organisms there are. So there are multiple organisms and they have formed with different structures. So some of them came with the idea that they have popped out like that. So they might have been created from inanimate object, like from some of them posed an experiment of coming out of dead meat or dead broth or boiled broth. So different experiments were made and different ideas stated that they might have been created from inanimate objects, or might be created from soil, or might be created from air. So yeah, these kind of ideas came in more prominently. Then came the period of scientific development, the ideas which established the theory of evolution that we have right now. So that we call as pre-Darwinian period, because after Darwin lot of things changed. So that was the time scale of theoretical evolutionary process and ideas, and Darwinian idea was a landmark in the evolutionary ideas time scale or timeline. Now, it can be the pre-Darwinian period or the idea of Darwinian theory of evolution can be traced back with the initiation of the systematic division of individuals and organisms with respect to their specific characters, which was made by Carolus Linnaeus, and he published that in a collection of books called Systema Naturae, where he classified organisms on the basis of specific characters. That give an idea that every organism are different and they might have, formed by different properties or different timelines or time scales or components or factors. Apart from that, Thomas Malthus gives the idea about population change that is happening, the principle of population biology or population, or the principle that states that a resource is limited and then population which depends on the resource might go extinct if the resource is finished. And how does that happen? So that was studied later on, but the idea was that population is resource dependent. So it is based on the resource. All the development of a species, all the development of organisms that happen is actually based around the available resources. So that was the basic idea of Thomas Malthus. And then Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck, he came up with the idea of inheritance of acquired character, which we'll talk in detail in the next slides. But that gave an idea about how inheritance can play a role in the development or evolution, or there might be transfer of characters over generations. Then Georges Cuvier gave the idea of paleontology, and he was also considered as father of modern paleontology, where he stated that many organisms are actually found in fossils, and we can actually see that the variation of fossilized evidence will give us that these changes happen over time, and these changes have been going on way beyond our idea, way beyond before human or creator came in. So all of these changes are happening over multiple time scales, and all these records can actually be found with respect to fossilized evidences. So that was the idea of Georges Cuvier. Then James Hutton and Charles Lyell gave the principle of uniformitarianism, where it states that all the processes that happen in the universe are uniform. That means all the changes that are happening have been happening way beyond in the past, are happening in the future, and have a similar trend in the present as well. I mean, if a uniform process is happening in the past, that will happen across the world and will happen right now in the present and will continue to happen in the future as well. For example, sun rises in the east, so that is a uniform fact, or a established fact, and this is uniform across the entire world or across the entire universal plane, and it will be similar, it will be the same across the future. So that is the principle of uniformitism, and that gives the idea that all the processes or evolutionary process that happens have been starting since the time scale we don't actually know, after the Big Bang we can say, and it is still continuing over time. And the process, it doesn't so the idea establishes that the process that have happened in the past might be happening right now as well. So evolution is a continuous process. That is what came in idea as well. So these all are theories or the ideas that establish the Darwinian theory of evolution. But before that, we'll study Lamarck's idea. So Lamarckism or the Lamarck's idea stated that the organisms change with respect to their environment and acquire the characters. These characters or these acquired characters inherit to their next generation, and that creates the line of evolution. So what is said is, organisms acquire different characters throughout their lifetime. Okay, organisms acquire different characters throughout their lifetime, and then they passed on the next generation. If the first generation had some acquired characters, then they are passed over to next generation. Like for the example, you have seen the example of giraffe and everything, and it stated that direct environmental effect has on the organisms. So there is a sort of internal changes or internal forces that functions and shapes the entire organism. So direct environment affect the internal forces, which at that time he called as nervous fluid. He didn't have an idea about genes or DNA, so he called that as internal force, which actually changes and shapes the entire organism and are passed on to the next generation. He also pointed that species originated at different times. That means lion originated at different time and tiger originated at different time, human originated at different time, and so on. Apart from that, he also mentioned the acquired characters depends on the usage and disuse of an organ. I mean, if a organ is not used that much, then that will be go extinct or be removed out of the system, and the organs that are used much or relatively in a regular interval, then those organs will develop and will be the character which are acquired over time and will be inherited. For example, the usage of extended neck in case of giraffe, that was the basic idea. But these ideas, although seem legitimate or logical, are entirely wrong. Not entire wrong, but there are a lot of criticism to it. And they are not accepted changes or accepted theories. But these theories actually established themselves across a period of time. So that was majorly used across for like 80 to 50 to 80 years, which was later questioned and criticized by other evolutionary biologists, and then was shifted towards. Even if now we see a book of biology or evolution, we start with the basic idea where we see a chimpanzee and then it stands up to a human. We see the human evolution in that way. So we are seeing chimpanzee, and when we see a hominid kind of organism or human, and then he gradually changes over to standing human. Okay, so it was in 4 paws and then it stood to 2 paws or 2 legs. So that's what we see, right? So that is Lamarck's idea, and that is not how actually evolution works. That's why evolution seems confusing, because it has multiple ideas that functions together, and we will clear things out through all the processes as we go forward. So what were the criticisms of Lamarck? Why were these ideas wrong? First, with the fact that all of these ideas are based upon the theory of inheritance of acquired characters and use of disease on organ and direct environmental effect and all. But inheritance of acquired character was not established or couldn't be established in the absence of the organs for inheritance or the idea of inheritance. Although people had idea about it, but they couldn't establish how is it inherited. And is acquired characters inherited? How can be acquired character inherited if it is established in the organs of inheritance? I mean, that was the major confusion at that time. And when things became clear with respect to genetics and inheritance, then it was clear that the acquired characters or the somatic characters that we actually have over physiological time period are not actually affecting genetic changes. So the somatic changes that happen, so the disuse of an organ or cutting down of an organ will not result the next generation to have the organ cut. I mean, if I cut my hand, that doesn't mean that my next generation would be born with a severed hand or a half hand or something like that. So use or disuse of an organ doesn't actually matters over time. Yeah, so example of given appendix in the human is not an example of direct disuse of an organ. There is disuse and use that is happening, but that is not the direct example of disuse and use of organ. So we'll read in detail. We'll study after reading Lamarck's idea and Darwin's idea and comparative analysis. We'll get an idea about what are the changes that we are talking about. Why am I not accepting Lamarck's idea while it seems more plausible?